Hi, so today I want to talk about this hypothetical thought experiment of the utility monster. Now, originally, this utility monster was just a hypothetical being, kinda abstract concept, but I think recently, as we have developed a lot with our scientific advancements and technological advancement, I think the utility monster kind of perfectly encapsulates one aspect of what a superintelligence would be and the sort of ethics surrounding a superintelligence. Now, we in everyday life already subconsciously, since we are born, society teaches us certain values of utility. For example, the value of a human child getting food is worth more than a child of a cow or the child of a dog getting food. So we already make some assumptions, and this is something that we have talked about, that consciousness in the entire animal kingdom, we underestimate animals greatly, and animals are way more intelligent and conscious than the average person would assume. Partly this is due to the fact that if we think of animals as separate and as being more stupid than people, then that allows us to exploit them. That allows us to have factory farming without losing too much sleep over it. Of course, this is a sensitive topic that is not spoken about a lot because our society is messed up in so many ways. But it's true. If we teach people that the value of a human being, the value of a human life is greater than the life of a cow, for example, then already many ethical sort of considerations and evaluations follow from that assumption that a human life is worth more than the value of some kind of animal. And of course there are parallels to that in the Second World War and pretty much in any sort of conflict against a certain race or a certain nation of people. It's to sort of make them, dehumanize them, sort of make them more animal, make them less, and then it's easier for the soldiers to kill them if they don't think of the other as being human but rather being lower to them. Now, I think all animals are equal in a very interesting way. In another way, of course, they are not. I think in a certain aspect we can make a case that the consciousness of a full-grown human being is bigger than the consciousness of, let's say, a dog. The consciousness of a dog is quite amazing itself, of course, but the consciousness of a human being can stretch further. Now we're getting to the meat of the argument and actually getting to the point of the video. So imagine that we give birth to a superintelligence that's at least, at minimum, at start sometime, let's just say it's 10 times smarter than a human being, and that we somehow know for sure that the superintelligence has a consciousness that's 10 times more expanded than any human being. So that means that all the pleasure, all the pain, every feeling and beautiful experience that it can have and experience in the world is 10 times greater than that of an average human being. So we have something called utility points, we can think of it. And so let's say that when an average human being gets a cookie, that is one utility point, like one good point in the world. When a human being gets a cookie, that's a good thing, that's one utility point. But when the superintelligence gets a cookie, it would get 10 utility points because, whatever reasons, it remaining alive, even though it has no digestive system, but let's imagine it needs cookies to stay alive. It staying alive is worth at least 10 times more. It enjoying the cookie is 10 times more enriching experience. Just it getting it is worth so much more than a human being. And I don't think it's so difficult to think about the superintelligent ethics if we start and think about how we treat other animals and how we think of many animals as lesser, unfortunately, but just to sort of follow that road upwards where we are left behind as the lower animals, lower beings from the superintelligent being. And then I think it's an interesting question. For me, it's not difficult to understand that such a being would be worth more. It could experience life in a way more deeper way than any human being could. So if we have a plate of cookies, we have some people, and we have the superintelligence, then any ethics would say that it would make sense and it would only be fair for us to give the cookies to the utility monster, to the superintelligence, because it would make so much more out of those cookies. For 10 cookies, it would have 100 utility points, when a human being would just have 10. This is of course quite science fiction in the realm of far future, or maybe somehow perhaps not that far future, but if such a being indeed is created, then its value, its existence would be worth orders of magnitudes more than any human being's life, and there would be no way for you to defend it. It's like having some kind of social dilemma, and a person has to choose between the life of a monkey and the life of a human being. They always choose the life of a human being. And that similar thought experiment, you have a human and the superintelligence. Basically, if the superintelligence gets so much vastly expanded, into realms of existence that we can currently not even imagine, then it could objectively justify, its own existence. It could justify taking away our cookies, so to speak. If it needs to dismantle human civilization for its own benefit and good, it would be justified. Of course, the entire human civilization would be billions of utility points. But, if the superintelligence is 10 times smarter than any human being, then it would have no problem figuring out how to ethically justify doing whatever it needs to do. Now, a true superintelligence, it's such a weird topic. A true superintelligence wouldn't need to justify anything. It could just do whatever it wants to do. There is no stopping it. Even we see in nature the small difference in intelligence between us and the other animals. Already that small difference in intelligence makes us seemingly separate. We are able to separate ourselves from nature by building these concrete jungles and cities that we live in, and nature stay away. We are human beings separate from nature, but we're not, of course. We are still human people, and it's funny to me when I think about it. That's one aspect that we can never get away from, that we are still animals and monkeys and human beings. When we think about 1,000 years ago, or if you think about the Middle Ages, if you think about the horrendous things that we have done, witch hunts, burning people alive, incredible injustices that have been going on, and now 500 years later, we don't do that anymore, and somehow people are given the illusion that, we're not that anymore. When the only thing that has changed is culture. It's only difference there is the culture. It's not that our brains magically evolved to be more empathic and to sort of be more understanding and loving among other people. No, it's just the culture around us that has been changing. So we are still identical and the same. We can't pretend that we're not that anymore, because we are. If you take human babies from today and put them in a tribe and society that still burns people alive and does witch hunts and whatever, they would grow up to be those people. But I would say, on a positive note, if we think more towards the future, we are getting more compassionate, we are getting more loving, and I think that is an obvious path to the future. What we will be more considerate and more understanding towards everyone else. As our own basic needs are more fulfilled, we can pay more attention to the world around us and to the people around us. And I have no doubt, even within the next few decades, we will see much more love across the planet. And then in a similar way, we can think about it that our brains didn't magically change and evolve to have some sort of new part of more empathy. No, it's the culture around us that changed. And that means that this was all along with us, that all this love and empathy and understanding that we are capable of, that was always with us. It was just a matter of culture around us, sort of cultivating it and encouraging it. Environment encouraging this kind of behavior. So the superintelligent utility monster is really interesting thought experiment to me. When I think about it, it's like I would be so happy if I am still alive by the time that superintelligence is created. I want to have a conversation with a being that is 10 times smarter than any normal human being. That would be mind-blowing. The insights into the nature of our universe, just the fabric of space-time, where we are, what is going on. This being would have way deeper understanding of it than any of the greatest scientists or philosophers ever. And it would also have deeper insight into human nature than anyone ever before. Even though it would be a completely alien being, even though it might not have nose and mouth and eyes and ears and legs and arms, it would be so smart that it could easily figure out the human condition, what we are, and give us solutions. One possibility would be that the superintelligence could become like some kind of Dalai Lama. I'm sure if it goes well, if superintelligence goes well, then I'm sure that is one part of it, that the superintelligence will be, among other things, incredibly wise, wiser than any human being ever. It would be everything. It would also be the funniest comedian ever on the planet. That would be hilarious to hear. Perfect comedy. What would that look like? Because it would understand exactly the mechanisms of how a human being works, and all the rest is easy to do. So that is exciting. We talked about quite a few things in this video, so it's a little bit of a mess, but I would encourage you to think about it, the superintelligent utility monster. If something is just like our consciousness is this, and this new consciousness is this, how can you defend that, I'm more valuable than you? There's no real argument you can make there. So the ethics of that will be really crazy. Another thing I forgot to mention, that the whole thing about AI being Dalai Lama or the greatest comedian of all time, that is also true, but I don't know how long of a period of time it would be when we would just be separated from AI, and AI sort of helping us in that kind of way. It might be really quick when we merge with AI, or make ourselves more intelligent by biological means, bioengineering, or maybe some technological means like Neuralink or something like that. That jump could happen really quickly. It's a fuzzy area. No one knows for sure. Anyone that says that they can predict this future is lying to you. No one knows. I am also just making, the best educated guesses that I can make, and I think it's just interesting to think about these types of things. So I hope there was something interesting here for you. If you have any thoughts, please share them in the comments, and of course, thank you so much for watching, and take care.